Hello, hi children. I hope you all are doing well. As you all know that due to this pandemic, our school has been closed down, and for that we are starting online classes. And today, our first class that we'll learn is about settlement. Now, what is settlement? Now, before going deep into this word, settlement, we have to go 1,000 years back when man was nomad. That means they did not have a particular or a permanent place to live in. They used to wander from place to place, gathering foods and even eating raw flesh of animals. So, settlement actually means when people settle down and live in a place permanently. But this was not the case thousands of years ago. Man used to wander from place to place and lived temporarily in a particular place. But soon after the discovery of farming, when man learned about farming, it was then that man started to live semi-permanently, not permanently, but semi-permanently in a particular place. And that too beside where? River. Now why they choose river to settle down? Because they would get enough water for irrigation. And also they could use the river water for different agricultural purpose. And why I said earlier that at that time this settlement was known as semi-permanent settlement. Because even though they set up their farming area in a particular river basin or nearby the river, they did not live there permanently. Because the technology at the time was not up to the mark. So they did not know much about how to conserve the soil. So because of soil depletion, because continuous farming in a particular place depletes the soil. So for that reason, after a couple of months, they move from there to another place. And for that reason, it was, or it can be called as semi-permanent settlement. Now coming back to, as man gradually learned farming, then they decided to stay in a particular place. When man started living in a particular place, slowly more and more people started gathering together in that particular place. And this led to the creation of village. Okay, so once villages were set up, in the course of time, gradually more and more people moved in those places and the population grew. And as a result, those villages turned into cities or towns. Now, on the basis of settlement, we can divide settlement into two parts. There are two dichotomy. Dichotomy means two parts. One is rural and the other one is urban. So these two are the two types of settlement which we are going to discuss in this chapter. Now first let's discuss about rural settlement. Now where can you find rural settlement? Yeah, of course. Such settlement can be mostly seen in fertile plains in the villages. So now if you have to compare between rural and urban settlement, then the thing is, rural settlement is mostly based on agricultural activities, whereas urban settlement is based on non-agricultural activities. Now, rural settlement can be commonly seen in villages which are close to rivers, ponds, lakes. That means where we have adequate amount of water so that people can use those water for agricultural purpose as well as for domestic purpose. And for that reason, people started settling down in those areas. Now, as you can see that the types of rural settlement. Now we have 5 different types of rural settlement. One is nucleated settlement. The other one is sparse or dispersed settlement, linear settlement, star settlement, and square settlement. Now, all these settlement can be either in the plain area or even in uplands, like in hilly areas or in mountains. Now, apart from the reasons why rural settlement, what favors rural settlement? Now, climatic factors are there, fertile land, that means adequate amount of water, and also local building materials must be there. Then only people settle down in those places. And if these things that I have mentioned, like fertile soil, adequate amount of water supply, building materials, good network of roadways, then such places become densely populated. In the above, as you can see here, nucleated, sparse, linear, star, and square, this has very less population. Even if the climate is good, the soil is fertile, water is available, but sometimes because of the topography, the region, if it is upland or highland, then people do not go and settle down there. And that's why very few people settle down there, and that's why the population is very sparse. For example, the state of Nagaland we have here. In the hilly area, the population density is very less compared to the plain areas. Now, one by one, we'll discuss all these settlement. Nucleated settlement. Now, where will you find such kind of settlement in the rural areas? So, basically, such settlement can be found in a fertile and a plain area. The people here in nucleated settlement, they live in cluster. For example, the roads and the roads connecting each other, and then these are what? These are houses. So as you can see, in nuclear settlement, people settle down close to each other. Why? Because in such settlement, various facilities are available. And people live in cluster, very close to each other. Then the next that we will discuss is about, what was the next settlement? Sparse or dispersed settlement. Sparse. Now, sparse settlement you'll mostly find in hilly areas, because the living condition there is not up to the mark. There are certain disadvantages, as in the hilly area or in the upland, transport system cannot be built up, and also sometimes due to unfavorable climate, infertile soil. So in such cases, the population there becomes very sparse. For example, these dots represent people with their houses. So as you can see, very sparse. So this is sparse settlement. I hope you are clear with this. The next we shall discuss is about linear settlement. Now, such type of settlement, as you can see, this is a road. This is a railway track. So, in linear settlement, people settle down by the side of the roads. Or by the side of railway lines. These dots represents actually houses. So along the railway lines or roads where people settle down, such type of settlement are known as linear settlement. Now, the next settlement is star settlement. Now in the previous settlement that we discussed, it was about linear settlement. When several roads cut each other or even railway tracks, then it forms into a star pattern and people start to live along the roadside or even the railway track. So several junctions can be seen in such type of settlement. So these dots actually represents people with their houses. Then such settlement is known as star pattern settlement. Then the last one that we'll discuss is square settlement. Now, square settlement is also where crossroads, where two roads cross each other, and such settlement can be mostly found in plain areas. And especially this square settlement in the due course of time also leads to urban settlement. When more and more people come and start living there, then the population increases, then the process of urbanization takes place, and then it turns into a urban settlement. So what happens here? People start living in these cross ends, on the both sides of the cross ends. These dots are houses with people. So these are, this is known as square pattern settlement. And square pattern settlement mostly can be found or seen in agricultural fields. So this was about types of rural settlement. Now let's recall what we have learned here in settlement and rural settlement. So we have learned that man at first did not settle down permanently, but they were semi-permanent dwellers, which later on, with the help of science and technology, when farming was more improved, then men started settling down permanently. Where? Beside river, ponds or lakes or fertile area. Now my first question here is, why men settle down permanently, for agriculture. So what do you think? Why men settle down permanently for agriculture? Now, the first reason why men settle down permanently, so that they could plow the field. And sow the seeds. This was the main reason, or the first reason why men settled down permanently for agriculture. Secondly, men settled down was so that to harvest their crops. And then lastly, it was easy to get food rather than wandering. So these are the reasons why men settle down permanently for agriculture. What are they? First, to plow the field and sow seeds, to harvest their crops, and it was easy to get food rather than wandering from place to place. So this, you have to write it down in a copy, in your fair copy. Then what else have we learned here from rural settlement? Why does man select places by the riverside to settle down? Now, what may be the reason for man to settle down by the river side? The reasons are, enough amount of water for agriculture and domestic purpose, water for animals which they have domesticated, and also for catching fish. This is also one of the occupation of the people living in rural areas. I hope you are clear with this settlement and types of rural settlement. Okay, so what we have learned? So we have learned that what is settlement? That means living in some place permanently. Then we also have learned about the two types of settlement, rural and urban settlement. Then we further discuss about types of rural and urban settlement. They are nucleated settlement, sparse settlement, linear settlement, star settlement, and square settlement. Now, whatever we have learned, on the basis of that, at the end of this video, I'll put up some questions and you have to write those questions in your copies and then try to find out those answers. And those answers are in brief. You write the answer in brief, not long answers. That's all for today. Thank you.